I'm now going to introduce Simon. So Simon, best to describe him as a guru. He is absolutely fantastic. He's going to talk to you about his experiences, his business, but you will gain so much from what he's got to say. So please do take note, and there'll be some time for questions as well. So introduce Simon. Round of applause.
Thank you. Testing. I just need to double check after that just now. I'm just popping this water down. Okay, so you're all from Lincoln. So put your hands up if you're a graduate of Lincoln Uni. Okay, put your hands up if you're at Lincoln Uni but not yet a graduate. Keep your hands up if you intend on graduating. Okay, cool, right, just double checking. Good stuff. Okay, so I didn't actually graduate from Lincoln University. I went to a different one. But yeah, so I was very honored to be asked to do a talk today to this room, because I believe there's people who, they've been to uni, they're starting a business, they want to start a business. Maybe you're doing business management, maybe you're doing an art degree. I'd be really interested to find out more about who I'm speaking to. But I think depending on what you've done, there's a wealth of opportunity out there for you. So I'm going to start with a little bit about the human behind it, because ultimately you're all very different humans, and the business that you want to set up or the world you want to go into is completely dependent on you, your skills, your features. So who the hell am I? Okay. Marketing, I'm going to talk about marketing because I think it's a key part of what you're going to be doing if you start a business. But actually, where I'm not saying I'm unique at all, because there's loads of people who've done what I've done, but the opportunity is to bring together the marketing that I've done. And I'm like, hang on a minute, let's actually, because there's a saying that builders live in terrible houses, right? They're good at, say, being good at something, but when it comes to actually practicing what they preach, they're not so good at it. And you find that a lot in life, because everyone's an expert, right, of course. So you've got to remember, it's testing yourself, right? I was coming up with theories for all these different brands, and I was just like, hang on a minute, I need to put my money where my mouth is and actually do something that's for me and my business. So a bit about that, backing myself to go alone, and some sort of vision of what the future holds. So, just to double cap on that, and I'm not going to give you a load of Instagram-friendly motivational speeches today, but the one thing I will say is you are the CEO of your own life, okay? So when you graduate, you've not got, you're going to miss, your housemates. Maybe you won't actually, I don't know. But, you're going to be away from your sort of safe space, pastoral care, lecturers, structure, going into the big wide world. And there's going to be hundreds of people who are in your shoes, thousands maybe going for similar jobs, similar opportunities. So, you've got to make sure that everything starts with you. So it's about knowing what you can control and what you can't control. Don't care about the things you can't control. Focus on the things you can. And, you're the boss of your own life. So, quick question. Has anyone seen this poster before? It's for an Oakland, California death metal fest. Anyone seen this? Okay. Does anyone want to comment on any observations on it? Anyone? Everything looks the same. Almost, yeah. Anything looks different on there? Yeah, Party Cannon, they're called. They're a death metal band, okay? Now, I actually listen to, I'm not really into death metal at all, but this is a great example of a certain type of business or brand, i.e. a metal band. They all copy each other with the same logo. Except Party Cannon, who I've never heard of in my life, and to be honest, it's not really my scene. I listened to it on Spotify last night. It was pretty grim. But the point was, I was interested, and I listened to it because they're basically like the branding for Toys R Us, which is completely the opposite of what this kind of aesthetic is. I can't be bothered to read the other ones. It's weird font anyway, right? But I don't even know, like Wolf King, No Alters. I've never heard of these people, but they all look the same, right? There's an identikit. People think they have to copy and be the same as everyone else. These guys, Party Cannon, they've done something different, and they're thinking, hang on a minute, I'm going to look like Toys R Us, and people want to listen to them. So, there might be a lesson in there somewhere. That's me. about a month ago, probably. It's been a rough month. But yeah, so when I was your age, I was sort of fresh-faced out of uni. Not so fresh now. I mean, I graduated. I've actually left the actual date out of graduation from Bath Spa because I didn't want to scare you. But essentially, I've been doing what I've been doing for probably 19 years now, which is terrible, really. So I grew up down the road in Newark. I went to university down in Bath. I had a great time down there. And then I got jobs. I didn't know what to do. I did geography at uni because it sounded fun and I wanted to travel. I mean, that was a terrible reasoning, but I'll be honest, that was the thing I was most interested in. So I was really into the travel. I was into data. I was into urban geography, populations, demographics. And then I got a job at Experian, which is a big data company. And it was a graduate recruitment scheme. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was doing sales and I was just like, it's decent. I'm getting a salary and I'm, living with my parents at the time, happy days, loads of money, buying new things every week. But I then got another job working more in the marketing side because I was doing sales, which felt really sort of not me. But at the same time, I was really interested in the data and sort of different parts of the world and the way, just because you're searching for a pub in London doesn't mean it's going to be the same pub. There might be a really posh pub, then a really nasty pub. So I was really interested in the different demographics and different nuances of marketing. So I really got into it and I did some marketing at Vodafone. And then after some time traveling and, I actually was part of an IT company that won a tender and we went to Downing Street, presented. Gordon Brown was in the other room getting shouting. I was there talking, really good experience. And, around that time, I was setting up my first business. Now, I'm going to talk about Performatis. You wouldn't have heard of them because it was my business and it was terrible, okay? I set up my first business then. It's fair to say that I failed. And I think it's important to shout about that. I've had some great experiences, but it's not always, beer and Skittles, as my dad would say, right? There's a lot of challenges. So, I learned a lot doing that. I learned about what, I thought I knew, but I also learned the fact that being a busy fool, not making profit, following your passion too much, but not really doing work that makes money. So you have to find that sweet spot. So luckily for me, I went back to work. I was a global vice president at a agency and I was traveling around the world for Samsung and I was helping them with their global marketing, launching the S9. So I think 6 years ago today, I was in Barcelona for Mobile World Congress for the S9 launch. And, I've had all these different experiences. So including lecturing at Lincoln Uni, by the way, which is the logo up there. And then I decided in 2019 to put it all together and actually just do consulting. And initially, I just set up a business. I didn't really have a business plan, if I'm being really honest, but it felt like something to do. And I was like doing different projects, working with different clients, and sort of connecting the dots. Because that's what you find if you sort of work and get different experiences. If you're not sure what to do in your life, just be curious, try different things, and then things come good. And obviously, I've done talks internationally, locally. I'm a fellow of the CIM, which means I'm going grey, basically. I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, and I was writing, and very occasionally, right, this isn't me bragging, but I was writing this down and thinking, actually, I've done some really good stuff. So if you're ever having a really bad time or thinking that you're struggling, just make a note of all the things you've done, and you'll be like, hang on a minute, I'm connecting the dots here of some good stuff. So I've worked with some big brands. Some are lovely, some are horrible, but actually, it all is really good experience from, working with credit reference agencies to telecoms companies to travel. But what I really enjoy doing, you talk about David and Goliath, I really enjoy working with smaller businesses. So you may have heard of some of these. Some of these are based in Lincoln along the bottom or Devon. These are startups in London that I helped with when they founded. So what I did, I wanted to sort of bring the big business world to smaller businesses because I think there's a massive opportunity for small businesses to learn from everything around them, other businesses, but also the big ones as well. But then again, businesses that are big can learn from the small businesses because small businesses are more nimble. They're on their feet. They have more options. And I want to touch on this because I'm not ashamed to say I've had my own challenges as well. I've had mental health challenges. That's basically a really nasty looking graph that I drew, by the way. But essentially, my mental well-being and my career was up there. And then I had a massive I burned myself out, right? Massive anxiety, dropped in 2018, traveling around the world. You know, I was living the dream on paper, right? I had a big salary. I was a vice president. I was flying business class. And I was just like, I'm the man, right? This is cool, yeah? But the reality was I hated every second of it. I was eating Rennie all the time. I had acid, I had anxiety, and I completely burnt out. And what it was is because I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. I was doing something I thought was meant to be doing. Does that make sense? So, you know, it's really important to sort of align what you do with what you want to do, because if you don't, you're just going to be annoying with yourself. So, and I've been on a journey to rebuild and find my place, and now I'm back. I wouldn't say up there. We all have good and bad days, but I think about learning about what you can and can't do is really important. And like I say, my whole philosophy is about helping small businesses learn from big players. So, you know, Robin Hood, rob the rich, help the poor, you know, that situation. And the thing is as well, there's two types of businesses. There's product businesses and there's service businesses. So a product business is you launch a drinks brand, you take it to market, you sell it to the supermarkets, you go to events, you're launching a product. You can do that tomorrow. You can go on, do a Shopify site today. You can do a business plan now if you want. If it's more interesting than this chat, I don't mind, it's fine. But the key thing is, there's product business and there's services business. Now, a service business, which I'm doing, which is consultancy and basically interim head of marketing for small businesses, I had to get that experience. So the point is, I had to keep learning, and you always need to keep learning to maintain competitive advantage, right? So I'm not saying this to say, oh, look at me with all my badges. I'm saying that because you have to keep learning. Like, you know, when I finished uni, I was like, I'm done with it, right? I'm just want to go to work. But actually, what I've done since is keep, you know, learning these different things. So the quick lessons here. You'd say you're the CEO of your own life. You are you, nobody else is. That's the first thing I want to say. And the different experiences and attitudes, they do drive different ambitions and outcomes. What sounds like the right version of success from your colleague or your friend might leave you cold. If you might feel judged by doing the thing that you want to do, but respectfully, star them, okay? It doesn't matter, right? Do what you got to do. There's no one definition of what success looks like, as I said. And, you know, what are they called? Pink, I can't remember the name of that band again, terrible. But, you know, they're doing something that no one else is doing. If you zig, they zag, okay? So quick show of hands. Has anyone sort of started running a business yet, or started to build something on the side, or started to look into any kind of business plan or anything like that? Okay, I'm good company here. This is great. Okay, do you want to tell me about your business? Yeah. Fantastic, a music studio. Why did you get into that? Okay, so you wanted to change something that you enjoyed into something that you could actually enjoy doing and make money out of it and share the love of what you do. Brilliant. Okay. So music studio, videography, creative, brilliant stuff, right? This is all stuff that drove you, it's your passion, and you're doing it, and that's fantastic. So that's really important. Is there anyone else in the room who didn't? I just want a show of hands. Who's doing a course that isn't business management or business related? Okay. What did you do? Law. Okay. Okay, make sure you pay them on time, okay? Anyone else? Yep. Chemistry. Biochemistry. Okay. So that's really interesting. What do you want to do a business that's nothing to do with business biochemistry, or do you want to do something with the biochemistry? Now that's cool, right? That's really good, right? So some of us, we come out of uni, we've got a plan. We want to do biochemistry, we want to do whatever it is we're doing, law, and we want to go down that path, yeah? So, for example, biochemistry is a specific knowledge piece. Law is reading a million things and learning your trade. Maybe you go and do paralegal work. Maybe you want to be a solicitor. I don't know what the original goal was. But the point is that some people have a clear goal, what they want to do after university, and that's brilliant. Some of you might not. Some of you probably sat there thinking, I feel like a fraud in the wrong room because I'm not quite sure yet. I just want inspiration. I just wanted a morning off. I don't know why you're here. But, there's nothing wrong with that either, okay? Listen, I'm 40. I've said it now. Yeah, right, I'm 40, all right? I'm turning 40 in August, and I'm still like, what am I doing? Like, I'm still learning, and I'm proud of what I've achieved, but, we're always curious about what we want to do next, and there's nothing wrong with that, so don't feel bad if you're not too sure. The point is, you're unique, and that's the main thing about this, okay? Okay, I want to go through this really quickly about marketing. Some of you are going to know this, so I don't want to teach grannies to suck eggs, but at the same time, I do think that if I'm reaffirming anything you've learned, it means it's really important, okay? So, who specializes in marketing or does a marketing degree here? Okay, fantastic. So you'll be familiar with, the process and the 4 Ps and that sort of thing. That's fantastic. Okay, great. So, this little whistle-stop tour of marketing here. People talk about marketing like it's advertising, and it's not. Advertising is part of marketing. Advertising is telling the world about your proposition. The marketing piece is basically creating the product or service and taking it to the market that you want to take it to. So there's a process. I'm not going to go into it too much now because this is a module for another time, but there are exceptional steps you have to go through to do research, understand the market, position, get the assets, make it creative, and then you unlock the right to advertise. It's like if you were playing a game and you got to you beat the level guardian or whatever it was about, and you go to the next level. It's like that. You need to just earn those stripes, so to speak, and then you can do it. So product, place, price, promotion. Here's an example I did for a farming client, a client who does technology in the farming space. You've got their product there. So the product is what you're selling. The place is where you sell it or how you use it. Are you in the field? Are you at trade shows? The price is how you position the pricing. We'll talk about that. That's really important. And the promotion. Am I doing trade fairs? Am I doing print magazines? That sort of thing. Okay? Now, you've got Simon Duffy from Bulldog coming in later on. Great example. Think about this when he's talking about it. He had some challenges. What was he selling? What's the product? How's it different? Who's it serving? Where's he selling it? I mean, there's a picture of it in Sainsbury's, but it's also online and it's on Google. What's the price? Where does it compare to other people? The price dictates what people think of it. And then you've got the actual promotion, which is the advert and the little bulldog running around, which is quite cool. So that's something we'll talk about. Now, that's a QR code. So feel free to scan it and check out. I've got a monthly newsletter that goes out to students and marketers around the world. If you want to get a monthly snippet, please do download that. Now, has anyone heard of the phrase call to action? Do you know what it means? Yep. Yeah, exactly. You're asking something of someone, and that's one of the main things. When you're communicating in marketing or business, the call to action is the mechanic that gets you asking for something. So I've got 3 here. What are the 3? What are the 3 call to actions? Anyone? Sorry? QR code? Yeah, you see, QR code, that doesn't even need an introduction. I mean, I did mention it, but when you see a QR code now, thanks to COVID, you just know to scan it, don't you? Like, oh, what's going on here? I'll scan it. Read more. That's me saying read more. That's a call to action. A website, there's an inference. If you look on an advert at the end of a TV advert, whatever, and it says the website, that's basically their way of saying, do this thing. So make sure that whatever you communicate has a call to action, okay? Now, I want to go back to the 4 Ps and prove that advertising is just part of marketing, okay? Now then, on your tables, I want you to just decide, all of you, in your head, maybe you don't even talk about it, just decide, do you know what brand number 1 is based on those 2 colors alone? And do you know what brand 2 is, right? I think 2 is more obvious, but do you know what those brands are? And then I'll do 3 and 4 in a second. And these are called mascots. These are things that are in adverts that are part of the brand identity of a business. Do you know what those brands are? Okay, we've got an animal in a gown, and we've got a phone on wheels. Right. So, who knows all 4? Anyone? Who knows 3? Okay. Right, who knows 2? Okay, I won't ask the rest, don't worry. So number 1 is Guinness. Who got that? Okay, there's one guy drinking, busy on St. Patrick's Day here. The point is that brands need to create their distinctive identities. Now, the colours are strong for Guinness. People know that that's Guinness. However, that's not the distinctive shape. The distinctive shape of Guinness is the harp and the shape. People know it. Who didn't get number 2? Good, right. Okay, obviously Disney, we know that, right? Mickey Mouse, the Cinderella Castle, whatever it is, right? Number 3, who got that? Alexander, what's his name? Yeah? What is it? Compare the Market, comparethemeerkat.com, Simples, right? They built this, VCCP, the agency, built this 15 years ago, and it's been used in the advert every time since. And now, Compare the Market are the top of their market. They beat Go Compare, Money Supermarket, and Confused.com every time with a greater share of voice. Because people just think, oh yeah, the meerkat. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be like the best at what you do. You just got to be the most memorable and different. What about number 4? This has been doing the rounds since I was a kid. That's how long it is. Anyone know that? What's that? Yeah, direct line, right? So, you know, the little phone going around. So, you know, it's really important. The point I make there is that distinctive brand assets, you don't have to advertise. You're creating something so unique, people know what it is, right? Now, if you're going to remember one thing about marketing, just remember this today. Marketing is about increasing your odds ever so slightly so that you will sell more than the competition. Okay? That's all it is. There's different ways, there's different theories, different textbooks, but ultimately, good marketing differentiates your product, and it's through distinctive assets. Okay? So, you know, I always say to my clients, do you know your market? Have I researched it? Has anyone else advertised? What can I learn from them? Do I have a clear position and a message? Are my customer-facing properties clear? Does my website work, right? Who's got a website here? Who designs websites? I heard someone mention website beforehand. Right, okay. Come and check out my website. You click on the website. What's the worst nightmare? It's not loading. Error 404 is not working. It's like saying to someone, come to my shop opening, and then you've lost the keys. You can't let them in the office. Nightmare, right? So you don't want that. You've got to have every single touch point of the customer journey working, right? Be consistent with everything you're trying to sell. And this is a business lesson, not just marketing lesson. The amount of people who get these fundamentals wrong, it's crazy. Okay? Right. Quick thing about human psychology. So if we are going to advertise and we are going to sell something, a product to market, we need to understand human beings and why they buy and what drives them, right? Now, who knows the difference here between B2B and B2C? Would one of these marketing undergrads like to explain? Postgrad, okay, postgrad. You should definitely know them. What is it? Perfect. That's better than my answer, actually. Do you want to come up? Okay, all right. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, basically B2B and B2C. B2B is when a business is selling to a business. So I don't know, Eddie Stobart are selling their logistics solutions to food businesses who need to transport their food to Tesco, which is another business, but then the consumers are buying from Tesco. B2C is me selling, I don't know, exactly. Again, thank you. Sunglasses on a website. That is direct to the consumer, B2C. But what do B2B and B2C have in common? Human, right? People talk about B2B and B2C too much. There are different processes. There are different sales cycles. But there's such a load of nonsense out there about the difference. The bottom line is, if you're not selling office building or a brand or a logo, you're selling to a person who's busy and you need to sell to them. So you're still selling to a human being. Remember that. Every person who buys something is a human being clicking a button or saying yes or paying with a card, okay? Remember that. So that's really important. So it's very important to understand the psychology of marketing, right? So what have we got here? We've got David and Goliath. We've got two people chasing each other. It's all a bit weird. But actually, they're exactly the same size. Now, you wouldn't know that because of positioning, right? Positioning is really important. The way you frame something to a customer is everything. You've got two identical products there, but someone is more interesting than the other, and actually it's framed as something bigger and smaller. And one of my favorite examples, there's a great book, by the way, called The Choice Factory by Richard Shotton. I recommend it. And it talks about decisions that people make, design architecture, why people buy things, and about framing. So has anyone got an espresso machine or uses one of those? Or if their family do? Or Okay, brilliant. Okay, so you will buy, 3 pods, you'll probably spend, 35p a cup maybe, versus Costa Coffee, which is £3.50, say, okay? So in theory, you're spending 10% of what you would spend having a nice coffee at home on what you would do in Costa, okay? Now then, if I went to go and buy a big tin of coffee beans, Illy espresso, say, £5.50. Actually, with cost of living, that's probably like £7 now, but if that's probably that same sort of price. Now then, Nespresso have a decision. Do they compete against the coffee bean, or do they compete against the coffee shop experience? What do you think? The shop? Yeah? Correct. Because if you had to buy the same amount of grammage of coffee bean in there as you did on coffee pods, you'd have to spend £34 on coffee pods to get the equivalent amount of coffee. Now, no marketing and advertising in the world is going to compete with that, especially now in the current climate. So what's happened is that when Nespresso advertise, they create this panache of walking around home with George Clooney and a coffee. It's nice, it's fun, it's cool. Because if they competed against Illy, they'd be screwed. Make sense? That's a great example of positioning your product accordingly. So pick your competition. Who's got a flight, EasyJet, Ryanair, you've landed somewhere in Europe, and you're miles away from the terminal building, and you're waiting for the bus to come and get you? Who's been there? Right? It's really annoying, right? Now then, when Air Berlin, they had a really funny way of repositioning that. They were flying into an international airport, and the pilot, he got on the tannoy, and he said, rather than say, oh, nightmare, we've got it, he said, look, we're going to land very soon, and we're going to be having a shuttle bus, which is going to fast track you to security, right? So he basically reframed something that was a bit crap to something decent. So this is a great learning here. Whatever you do, you can turn it into something of interest and value. Me talking about price again. Price is really important. There's a great Robert Cialdini, he's a behavioral scientist, and he talks about the science of persuasion in his book, Influence. And he says pricing is such an important signifier that organizations will sometimes raise their prices, and as a consequence will be seen as the quality leader in their market, regardless of whether they've upgraded their offerings. Okay, who owns an iPhone here? Okay, who's got the latest iPhone? How many, of the people who have an iPhone, how many of you have had multiple iPhones? Like, is this your 3rd, 4th, 5th iPhone, right? So every 2 years, something gets launched, they create a new button, they charge you more, but you go back and get it, am I right? I do the same. I love it. I'm a massive sucker for an Apple iPhone, right? They never once drop their prices, am I right? It gets more expensive. I've got this O2 refresh panel, it's like airtime and the device plan. I keep paying more. And they sent me an email yesterday charging me more. But anyway, that's another thing. But the point is that Apple never once dropped their prices. They don't negotiate on that. Now, people think the way to grow and sell is to discount all the time. Nonsense. The most profitable company in the world, they have never once discounted. So that's something to consider, because they're positioning their place in the market as market leader by pricing more. And no one doubts it because the design's good and the product backs up the price. It's well promoted. It's the perfect marketing utopia. Okay? Whereas Pizza Express, wow. Right, who's paid full price for a Pizza Express before? Oh, mate, really? Oh, right, okay, well, nightmare. Sorry to hear that. You should be as uni days, there's your NHS, there's your NUS apps. Basically, Pizza Express can't give away enough, right? Dough balls and Polo ad Astra, I don't know how much it is full price, never paid it. Pizza Express have grown, and they get people in their building time and time again with offers, 2 for 1s, 50% off, free dough balls, yada yada. I don't know what it is now. But They nearly went into administration a couple of years ago, okay? They nearly went under. They priced themselves out of the market, right? The trouble is, they were winning customers who expected low cost, right? So now I've become conditioned. I'm thinking, right, shit, I'm going to go online, find a voucher, and I'm going to go on, right? And, but otherwise I don't bother. Because in my head, Pizza Express is a place I go to get a deal, right? Now, that's a problem, right? Why do you think that's a problem? Anyone? Sorry? So I heard something then. Basically, they're killing their own profit margins. But they continue to discount. I got an email on Black Friday. More dough balls with like frosting on, some sweet dough ball thing. They were decent, to be fair, but that's what they can't stop doing it. And it just makes you think. You don't have to discount to be successful. Okay, sometimes the way you position the price is much more important. There was a really interesting study between MIT and University of Chicago a few years ago. Right, they put the same clothing in two different mail order catalogs. Okay, to do a test. They wanted to test what sold more. Okay. $39 versus $44, right? That was one test. And the other test was $39 versus $34, okay? For this same dress. Now then, hands up if you think that $39 beat $44. Okay. Someone who kept their hand down, why do you think $44 did better? Sorry? Okay. Well, on this occasion, $39 won, okay? Because 39 is cheaper than 44, and there's a perception piece here. Because bear in mind, the person who's buying the $39 dress hasn't seen the $44 dress. That's in another catalog. They've not seen that. But interestingly, $39 beats $34, okay? Now, there's a theory that something called the left-hand pricing effect, charm pricing. There's a reason why something down the shop is $1.99 and not £2. Because the brain in the Western world reads left to right. We look at the price, $1.99 instead of £2. This is incredible insight. So actually, even though $39 is cheaper, more expensive, than $34, more dresses were sold at $39. And the theory is that they thought people were thinking it was like a cheap 40 or a cheap 44. Does that make sense? So actually, the way you price things can set a certain precedent. So if you're not sure whether your £50 thing is too expensive, make it £59. You make more profit. They think it's a cheaper 60. Perfect. Right? What a great idea. And Another example from the Choice Factory, which I love, is Mazda. So this was the agency for cars. Now, it worked out it was with the M2, so quite a small, well-priced car. This was about 4 years ago, 1,600 quid a year. But what they did, they wanted to test a couple of messages. They wanted to test, break it down by week and break it down by day, which is really cool, right? So you could have £32 a week or $4.57 a day. Now, does anyone have any thoughts what they think would be best there? Third or second? Okay, weekly. Oh, the daily one. Oh, sorry, yeah, okay, far right, okay. Yeah, correct, absolutely. So you might have seen Vitality do the same thing, or people might sell the gym membership, join the gym for less than 50p a day and stuff like that. Because people break down the cost, right? If you saw something that was 25 quid a month, you'd be like, oh, that's a bit of a faff coming out my account. I can't afford it. But if they tell you it's 80p a day, you're like, oh, that's nothing. I'll waste that at Greg's, right? So what it turns out, that's 5 times more effective than the annual message. And actually, it was 28% more effective than the monthly. So breaking down price and making a big nasty price palatable, whether it's a 9 at the end or it's a breakdown per day, that's powerful stuff, right? Comparison. We're in a world of comparison. You type in something into Google. I mean, this is how exciting my life is. I was looking for mugs, okay, because I broke a couple. But anyway, that's not the point. I was looking at mugs, and I'm like, right, £5, £1, £4, £8.99, that's quite expensive. £10, well, that's quite expensive. Why is it expensive? Because there's 4. So the quick mathematician in me is like, oh, that's £2.50 a mug, happy days. I didn't buy them, but the point is that the imagery was really important for me to realize that's actually a good deal. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked, okay? So how you position something is really, really important. Okay. Any questions on that? Any thoughts on pricing? Has anyone got any examples that they've seen? Hi. Not quite, no. So left-hand pricing is more about the psychological sort of the way that the human eye scans it. Yeah, whereas keystone pricing is more of a strategic pillar of how you price your product. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So advertising in the mix. Now, like I say, it's the last part of it. It's the part that we don't talk about. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much. This is quite advanced level, and I appreciate you guys aren't as interested in marketing as I am, and it could get a bit dull. But there's media and creative. Does anyone know the difference between the two? Not this table. Anyone else? Very simply, creative is the picture you see, and media is the reason you see it. Okay? If you watch an advert on ITV Hub or ITVX, the advert is the creative. The reason you're seeing it, the media is ITV and TV advertising. Okay? And the best work comes from being creative and working them together. Right? And the big thing I've learned is that in the world, you'll find this if you graduate and go into the agency and marketing world, there's a big two different worlds. There's creative agencies and media agencies. I've worked with some of these, but actually, they have to work together on certain clients. I've worked with all these agencies on these different clients, and it's a nightmare because you've got one agency doing one thing, one doing another thing, then I come in the middle, I'm like, why aren't we talking? It's crazy, right? And this is a chance for small businesses or startups to get on one page, what does brilliant look like? So here's some inspirational things, right? So again, there's another example of that. But for the best output, the what and the where need to get on the same table and as early as possible. Why? Because the message can be the medium as well, right? I love this example from IKEA, right? They opened an environmentally friendly store in North Greenwich a few years ago. So what they did to reaffirm the unique selling point of being environmentally friendly, they looked at sites of bus stops in London and they worked out how many steps it was to that store. And then they used data points and the media and the creative to do that. So I think that's a really cool example of advertising and bringing those things together. Same when Good Omens was launched on Prime Video a couple of years ago, they basically nuanced the creative to Lime Street, Euston, Waterloo, and Manchester Piccadilly. Okay? So it's utilizing those areas, which I think adds, massive value to things. One of my favorites, Leah Burnett, they did this. Who knows the IMAX at Waterloo? Anyone? Yeah. The incredible big spherical cinema immersive screen. It also acts as a advertising campus. When McDonald's launched they celebrated their 50th anniversary. They got their distinctive brand asset, which is what? Anyone? The Big Mac, yeah. We all know the Big Mac is McDonald's, yeah? They basically just did a big, massive Big Mac in the shape of that piece. That's ambient out of home. Use this as inspiration. If you're selling, whatever you're selling, think about where it is, how it renders, and how you can use, like people do murals and like brick walls and things. There's loads of things you can do. I love this kind of thing. I love what McDonald's did as well. They did a thing with the sun, for breakfast in LA, right? When the sun hit a certain point because of the signage above the media placement, they were able to create a sundial of breakfast products that align with the time of day. That's cool, right? Yeah. These are the sort of things we want to be starting to think about in this room. Yeah. Context is everything as well. This won the out-of-home advert of the decade. O2 wanted to prove their repair. They know how annoying a cracked screen is because repairs is boring. Oh, you pay extra for repairs is like, whatever, I'll be fine. And then you break it and then you wish you'd bought insurance, right? This is a great example. This is something that happens. Oh dear, look at it. The screens come down. There's an inferred crack on the screen. This is a really effective campaign. This was really, really powerful, actually. This is from Good.org, CIC. They're a homeless charity, an organization in York, and they put posters on the floor and on the walls of where homeless people could potentially be sat to get people thinking. It's provocative, and it increased volunteers, right? The reason I'm showing you this is out of all these ones, these guys have very little money, okay? They don't have the big funds. They don't have, maybe they got a bit of funding and grant funding, which, I know you guys can do here at Spark House, for example, or Student Enterprise. But they had very limited resources, so they had to get creative. They probably spent, I don't know, let's say 50, 100 quid on a few posters, get them printed, and then they put them down there. How good's that? Right? And then the good thing about those kind of adverts is you can take pictures of them, share them on your socials, get people talking about them, and you create a distinctive kernel of content that you can then build on. So have a think about that. This was spotted. I don't know if there's any creative advertising students in the room, is there? No? Andrew Bolton's class? No? Okay, well, I did a guest lecture for them last year, and Andrew is really good. He's always doing this thing called copy in the wild, and he just puts them on LinkedIn and Twitter. He sees something and he shares it. So this is his. The cool thing about this was he's at the petrol station. He's putting his unleaded in, and the DVLA are advertising on the petrol pump saying, basically, you can't get away with not paying your vehicle tax. We're on to you, mate, okay? Because I'm sorry, if I'm shirking not paying tax, I'm still putting fuel in. So I feel like, it's Big Brother, they're watching me. Excellent placement, yeah? Samsung, I used to work with Samsung, and what they did, they were using geography and context to map to their benefits to sell. For example, the launch of the new phone, it made sense to have it on the big new screen at Piccadilly, which is Ultra 4K HD, so highlight the what's the word? The real good pixelation of the phone. Australians have a nightmare. There's no Australians in the room, is there? Okay, it's fine. And if you are, I'd say it to your face as well. But they're a nightmare with damaging their phone. Water problems. They take it to the beach. They go swimming. There's more insurance claims for water damage on phone than any other country in the world. So they talk about water resistance on their phone. That's a great example. Argentina has a road safety problem. So to promote their TVs, they installed TVs on the back of lorries so you could see what's happening on the other side of that lorry. So it was actually a fundamentally smart social initiative that bridged to that brand. Okay? So own the USP. Love this. Really good reactive stuff from Seconda watches. Theresa May was getting battered because she had 2 jobs. And then Seconda just said, only does 1 job. Perfect. Reactive. And there's a great example of creative working with media, right? If the company didn't know what the media was doing, that wouldn't work. But they knew. They said, what are we talking about? They said, what are the big topics? Oh, we're talking about that. Can you place our advert about only does 1 job next to Theresa May, please? Perfect. They're the little moments, those moments where people, it's called a category entry point. If someone's already thinking about a certain thing like, 2 jobs or, dishonesty, good place to talk about honesty of what you do. Do you see what I mean? Really good stuff. Specsavers, great example. Social, there was the 22nd of Feb last year. It was the 22222. It was a big thing on Twitter. It's a bit stupid. But what they did, Specsavers, they actually put their slogan in reaction to it. So they should have gone 22222 Specsavers. Volkswagens are known for being really solid cars, sturdy cars. Yeah, they're good for parts. They're well built, right? They're basically saying that the police are hiding behind potential shooting because that Polo is absolutely nails, okay? And that's a fun take on their USP. Also, who knows, of the people who run a business in here, who knows their competitors? Do you know who they are? Yeah? Do you think it's important to know what the competition are doing? Yeah, it is. Okay. But do you get obsessed with them? No, absolutely not. The important thing is to know what other people are doing. You zig when others zag, that sort of thing. But you need to know what they're doing so you can do something different. Sometimes you can be a bit cheeky. For example, one of the early examples in the 60s was an excellent take on Hertz. Hertz owned the car rental market in America. Avis knew they were second in market from the brand studies. So they said, it's only number 2, so we try harder. Now, that's cheeky, right? You don't always get away with that. But what it is, it's a good way of positioning yourself and almost like turning your David into a Goliath, turning your disadvantage into an advantage. And there's really smart ways that you can do that. It's one of my favorite examples. Who's seen this? Your Move BMW, checkmate, perfect. These are 2 brands, rival brands, German cars, messing around, having a good time. But know the competition, have fun with it, have a bit of, I hate the word banter, I absolutely hate that word. But, do that to a degree, but actually also own your piece as well. Now, final thing on this, because I'm worried I'm talking a lot about adverts just now. My favorite collaboration is Specsavers, okay? Should have gone to Specsavers. I love the stuff they did. They relaunched it after COVID. It's one of their favorite lines. People say should have gone to Specsavers. It's become a bit of a joke. It's on memes. And they're like, you know what? We need to resurface that. So they basically deliberately did imperfect placements. So upside down in the paper. Should have gone to Specsavers. Perfect. And the out-of-home placements were deliberately wrong. Vertical, ladders behind. And what they did, they also used Twitter, which, by the way, is going through a bit of a challenge at the moment about funding and advertising, so stay away. But in the good old days, before Elon Musk took over, this was really interesting. They had individual things where people were getting things wrong, looking at things different, and they were promoting and retweeting those. So Specsavers were tapping into user content. And even in the gaming world, you can buy inventory in games, you can advertise in games, and they were doing that exactly the same in games as well. But what I loved about it, why is this advertising campaign so great, by the way? Because it brought back an old favorite, because actually, when you've got a brand asset, be consistent with it. You don't have to, you don't have to go too long. You don't have to keep changing it. ITV and Channel 4, they swapped scripts, and they use human words. Right, I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to get told off in a minute. So someone at Lincoln Uni did this for The Economist. It's a real page turner, fantastic, and it really does do that. So anyone can do this. So it's really important to do that. I'll go to the next one now. So very quickly, I set up a business. I had to challenge myself, right? I was living in London, and I was... Okay, I've got 5 minutes, okay? So they're going to start asking you to think about questions as well, so just to warn you, okay? So very quickly, I set up Archman in 2019, and I wanted to do this myself. I was fascinated by what I do. I was passionate about it. I was learning from different kinds of customers, and I wanted to bring it together. But I'd set up a business, and the rent was going up. I was living in Wandsworth. I was paying $2,000 for my 1-bed flat. I'm like, I need to get out, right? I need to go back home. So I came back up to Lincoln, which is a wonderful city, by the way. And, great standard, great cost of living. And there's some really good connectivity. I'm based at a co-working space down there. You've got the incredible things here with the university as well. And it's good to run a business, by the way. There's cons, hell yeah, but there's also pros, right? I control my calendar. I have a sense of personal achievement because of things that have been going on. I have a freedom of choice. I'm flying to Tenerife on Saturday for a week, working on my friend's balcony because I want to, and I can be anywhere in the world doing what I do. So, that's fine. And I've got a feeling of conquering challenges for something worthwhile. I'm actually helping good brands do good things, right? I set up with 300 odd quid, right? So you could probably do better than that, I did a website, business cards, I got a workspace, stationery. So, but I reckon even with cost of living, you could do that for half the price. And they say builders live in crap houses. You should always do your research, but I was very, very loose with it. I just sat up and I was like, I trust my gut. And sometimes that's a good thing, but it's always good to test your assumptions. I knew I had experience, which was in my favor. If you haven't got the experience, make sure you do the research. Brand assets, Archman. It's Archie and Simon. Archie is my family's dog. He's a terrier. He's quite bold. I quite like that. It seemed cool. I wanted that for my business, quite bold planning for advertiser growth. So I bring Archie and Simon together. I had the tessellation because I thought it was bold. I thought it was sharp. It was about collaboration. And I wanted decent colors and decent fonts because that's my distinctive brand assets, okay? And we talked about touch points and prices earlier on. Every single thing is the truth. From the website through to me talking, through to the pitch, everything's identical. And it's important to know the landscape. You know, I'm in that sort of inexpensive personal place. I'm not a big Google, or I'm not a big agency group or a do-it-yourself. I'm a small boutique consultancy. So I know my position, what I am and what I'm not. You got to accept the troughs and the peaks. It's not always like that. I had a nightmare in lockdown in COVID. I had to change my product and position. So, you know, things do go down before they go up sometimes. And yeah, these are some key aims and objectives. I'm just going to go through this now. I've got a team. So Lex, and Nina, they're my fellow planning partners. So they work with me on different campaigns. They're all ex-clients. So I do a lot on my own, but don't do everything on your own, please. You know, please don't do that. And then I work with up to 120 partners. So just to wrap up, the last few months, feedback, I had to do a real audit with myself, look at what was working, what wasn't working. And it's very important to do that. When you're building, you've not made it. One thing to set up a business, one thing to start it, one thing to keep going, but then you've got to adapt. COVID needs, I adapted. And I can share this with some of you after this presentation if you wish as well. But I used insights to ask certain things. But the main thing about it is, what's your purpose, what's your goal? I wanted to help good brands do good things in a good way. And I make sure through volunteering, through the things I do and the clients I help and the charities I sponsor, that everything is connected. So someone asked me, like, do you think Archman's a success? Do you think you're a success? And I was like, to be honest, success is a personal thing. For me, success is freedom. Success is being able to do what I want when I want. Not about being the richest, but just feeling like I'm enjoying what I do. And, you know, success is freedom and things are good, you know. I've not failed yet, which is good. Clients are salespeople as well. That's the big thing I'd say there as well. If you have happy clients, they will tell people about it, okay? They are your best salespeople. Remember that. So these are your key takeaways. I can share this with Charlotte and perfect. I can share this with you afterwards, but these are the 3 things. Every journey is unique for you. So success is personal. Your business is zigging when everyone zags. Remember that. Don't be the same. Don't think you've got to copy anyone to do what you do. Do your thing. Get a white piece of paper, write it down, and do that. Don't forget about everyone else. So much marketing can be done without advertising as well. There's a lot of things you can do without spending a penny on ads. Get the positioning right, the price right, get the good product, do good work, and do a good product. Running a business is different to learning about business. And there's some smart people in here, MBAs, first dissertations, but put it to practice. Learn, apply that learning to the real world and get your real own case study. And it's about consistency and adaptation, right? Consistency, brand assets, everything's the same. But you've also got to be prepared to adapt because things change. And just when you think you're on top of the world, things can crash you down again, right? So it's being ready, being resilient, and I'm more than happy to talk to any of you about that. There's a reading list, and I can share that with you as well. Okay, so I just want to say thank you very much. And I believe you're going to do some questions soon. So thank you. Cheers.